Hello, everyone. This is Martin. Today I'll be reading The Lovers as our obstacle and The High Priestess as our opportunity. If you enjoyed this reading, remember to bonk the like button, subscribe to stay up on date on all the new content, and as always, leave a comment below for a chance to win a free one-on-one reading. So, to get started, The Lovers as the obstacle, High Priestess as the opportunity. Lovers as the obstacle is kind of weird, it's a little counterintuitive, but there are some interesting interpretations of this card insofar as something that, it could represent something that's going to get in your way. Now, lovers are there. First of all, I mean, there's a lot of literal interpretations of this, and it could be lovers. It could be a couple that is an obstacle. And one of the reasons why a couple might be an obstacle is that couples essentially, the fact that they're a couple is an abstraction from their relationship to anyone else. There's a lot of couples that prioritize they prioritize their partner. So one of the obstacles here could be that someone is going to get in your way because it's going to come down to a choice between you and their lover, and they're going to side with their lover. This is obviously not a shocking or uncommon thing, but certainly could be one of the simple explanations of something to consider. If maybe you're considering putting someone in a position where they have to choose between you and someone that they're in a romantic relationship with, it could also imply some sort of platonic friendship, someone that's just a deeply loved friend or a family member. This often gets in the way of things. Another interpretation with this particular card, with the Waite card. Now I will also be looking at the Marseille. Sorry, my French. The Marseille deck interpretation, which is very different. Waite in the design of this, there's a lot of interesting alterations that he made to the tarot deck, and one of the interpretations here, I think, is in the naive nature of these individuals. They're You could say that they're fairly accomplished as human beings, but they're entering into a whole new world, a new complex spiritual or cultural world, and this could be something that could be considered uh, to be an obstacle. Dealing with individuals that are entering a new stage of their life and are for the first time confronting some new system, some new feeling or a new meaning in life, or they're interacting with a new culture. Here, particularly the woman, it's kind of got an Adam and Eve vibe to it with the tree and the snake. So the Eve character here, she's looking up to this angelic figure, and I see this as potentially representing individuals who, they might be lovers, they might be in love, but they're still looking to something else, to some other being, to help them understand or define this thing that they're doing. In religion, it's pretty common for the definition of, let's say, love to come in a manner of revelation from the gods. A lot of people are familiar with terms like God is love, or it's a religion of love, things like that, right? So in this case, it's this individual that could be looking to a higher source of authority to define what's happening. I could imagine a lot of parallels between this and, let's say, something like a corporate structure, where you've got someone who's just been promoted to a new position, maybe a position where they have to work with another individual in a much closer manner. But this is a new this is a new world for them, and so they're not exactly sure what to do, and so they're deferring almost completely to their boss, their superior. And so, as a source of, as an obstacle, you can either be dealing with these types of individuals that you can't really get through to because they're in this whole new world, and they're going to get in your way because they're just, following what some authority figure is telling them to do. Or the obstacle could symbolize that it's going to be you yourself that are going to find yourself in this position where being in unfamiliar territory, having, and it's kind of like the what is it called, like when people get promoted into obsolescence or promoted to incompetency. If you do well at a position, you often get promoted, and if you do well in that position, you get promoted again. Again, most people, if they keep getting promoted, eventually they get to a position that they're not so great at that they get another promotion. Then they stay there, and often they're pretty ineffective. They would have been better off, a position or two further back in their career path where they would have been doing a great job. Maybe they also would have found themselves really enjoying the fact that they're really great at this thing, as opposed to being like, fuck, I can't figure this out. I gotta constantly look to this higher authority for guidance. So this could be another interpretation where you find yourself in this new position, in this new place, in this complex new place, and you're kind of, you're like a kid again. You're naive. You don't know the rules. Now, as far as the old school, which I'm all about, there's a couple interesting differences that it's really fascinating to consider what Waite changed in the making of this deck, and the what's often referred to as the Rider-Waite deck, the one on the right here. This is a really archetypal deck for a lot of people. A lot of the decks that we see nowadays, whether it's the animal deck or the fun decks, largely they're based off of this one, and this one in itself is based off of the Marseille deck that we see on the left. One of the really interesting differences here is that this card was originally called the Lover. It was a singular term and did describe the plurality of lovers, and also, even though it features, the angel was carried over, the sun, which is very interesting because in the old deck there's only two cards that, if I'm not mistaken, I think there's two cards that depict the sun. It's much more rare than in a lot of the more common contemporary decks. But so those things were carried over, but now we have three characters. And what is happening with these three characters? It's a much more confusing scene, and the card implies that there's only one lover. So it's a radically different message. I really like a lot of the old cards. A lot of them are much more nuanced and require a lot more reflection and consideration. I mean, also, they're often much more vague, but I think for people like myself who enjoy sort of diving into the mystery and trying to decode things ourselves, I think they're a lot better. So in this with this card, the interpretation of the obstacle could be that in some group of people there is confusion as to who is who, or maybe more specifically, who is playing what role, and that it's difficult to determine, who's the lover. In this sense, with a singular lover, it could also imply, there could be a couple, and one of the two people in the couple, they could have taken on a lover in the extramarital or cheating or sneaky sort of sense. And in that situation, with that kind of doubt and uncertainty, it could certainly be an emotionally charged preoccupation for people to figure out who the lover is, and the kind of suspicion that people could feel, anytime your partner's hanging out with someone, that kind of like, are they that lover, trying to figure it out. But yeah, so I think the original Marseille card illustrates an interesting state of confusion, of being unsure about, who is playing what role in a relationship. It could also refer to, being unsure what position as a lover you occupy in somebody else's life. Is it just a casual thing? Are they into you? Is it serious? What where are you at in the relationship? And so, looking at this as an obstacle, it seems to me like the interpretation here would be that the obstacle is the state of being preoccupied with this, of worrying and overthinking this. So, overcoming that, whether through, ignorance, distracting yourself, focusing on something else, maybe practicing some good faith mindfulness, just giving it some time with the faith that it's gonna sort itself out. Who knows? However you want to deal with it, but what I see here as the interpretation of this is that kind of confusion. Now, opportunities. This is also kind of a weird card to try and interpret in the context of an opportunity. The High Priestess, which was originally the Popess, like the Pope, but like a female Pope, I guess. The Priestess is an interesting card. This is this card is almost like it's, in my opinion, it doesn't represent an individual, even though we see the image here is of a person. My take on this card is that it represents an institution, some sort of worldly institution that, has the appearance of a person or a personality or an individual, or, it has that appearance. We interact with this institution in the sense, but it's largely an illusion. This is the number two cards are they're the in a lot of ways they're the beginning of the journey through the tarot, the journey of the maturation of the individual, and this card comes before the area that is even considered as being an active human being dealing with human things. This is still very much of the earth, and these pillars, very much so solid, institutional, rigid things of the earth. Not in a natural sense. Obviously, they were built, but impersonal, difficult to alter. This the tapestry, I guess. Excuse me. The background, it's got these pomegranates on it. These palms. Pomegranates symbolize, fertility. It's a very sort of feminine display, and obviously this individual, female, called the High Priestess. But the way I see this card is more like like I said, it's a figurehead that represents this large institution, almost like a mascot for a brand. If a brand has this, let's say a brand that depicts some sort of feminine, fertile product, or has that sort of an image, they adopt a mascot or a representative, a public relations individual, and it's some actress. Maybe she's beautiful. Maybe in this case, she's mysterious. She's a little cold and withdrawn, and again, kind of rigid and fixed in place. Yeah, so this is something that appears like a human being, but is really what we're interacting with is the perception of how an institution is representing itself. So it's a little weird to read this as an opportunity, because I don't really see the High Priestess as something that is easily mapped onto an individual, because I think it really kind of exists before the individual. It's almost like the folklore of an individual, the story or narrative of, let's say, what a woman is or what a priestess is. It's not what the actual person is. It's the reputation, the idea that we have of that. So In terms of the positive aspects that I would consider to be opportunities to take advantage of here, I feel like one of them is in stillness and patience. Again, this is a very very early card, and I think that it's very smart to take things pretty slowly and have a pretty traditional approach, let's say, to situations that are new. When you're just beginning something, stick with the things that you know. Um, you know, the the regular traditional things that have worked for you, and go about things slowly. Don't don't run right into a situation. Um, yeah, with the Marseille card, what's really interesting is that if you look at her face, it's really really pale in her hands, and this is not the case for most cards. Um, the Marseille deck is very big on color. It's a great deck for colormancy, and the skin tone or the flesh tone sort of color is used intentionally. Like in the Marseille card, it's interesting that the book that she's holding is that the color of human flesh. It's like she's reading the word of mankind. She's concerned with, you know, real human day to day life kind of things. But she herself is very pale, frozen, rigid, and I think I think the value of um, this card is the all the good things that come from that kind of rigidity. In some cases, in some situations it's really valuable to be active, like in certain situations, something like the Chariot is is essentially saying like now is the time to now is the time to move. Strike while the iron is hot. Get in there. You know, um, go apply for those jobs. Push forward. Try those new things. And there are definitely situations where that type of approach is the way to take advantage of opportunities. With this card, it seems to me like it's the very opposite. It's the idea that hanging back a little bit more, being, practicing stillness, um, especially in the refuge or with the support of institutions that have existed for a long time. So if you have a certain character, or if there's a place where your personality fits in very well, if there's some institution where your personality is celebrated or worshipped, um, then it seems like there are opportunities in those places, and the opportunities lie in existing in those places in a still and relaxed, timely manner. Then another interpretation is that this is the individual that is going to be offering up some sort of opportunity. So if there's an individual that you know of, possibly a woman, possibly a figurehead, I certainly think that this card has that meaning to an extent. Um, but a figurehead of uh, an old traditional institution, that this individual might have some opportunities to offer. In both cases, in both of these cards, I think that it's interesting that the text, some sort of information written down. The High Priestess has this scroll, you know. Uh, the Popus has this book, but in both cases, there's certainly an element of some sort of information. In the card on the right, a lot of what that information is seems to be obstructed. Like maybe this individual is concealing some of it, or hiding it, holding it back, keeping it for herself, which nonetheless, to me, kind of defines this person as the keeper of knowledge, the keeper of information. And this could potentially be something that will be revealed to you, that the opportunity could exist there. I mean, it is partially revealed already, right? We see a little bit of the writing, the TORA. And in the card on the left, this is an individual who, despite sort of being frozen in place, still has this book, and this book of these, could be interpreted as these relatable things, is open to us. So it's someone with information in a position of, it's not exactly a position of authority, I don't think. But someone who is very enshrined within an institution. Again, I think one of the most common situations for us is, in a corporate structure. It's like someone who might not necessarily be right at the top, but maybe someone who's seen as the representative for the brand. That type of individual. So, whereas here, with the angel here, we're dealing with potentially the lovers getting in our way because they're subordinates of this higher force. Here, in a sense, there's some individual in a relatively prominent position that's a representative of maybe the same structure. And I think what was it? There's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Quentin Tarantino movie. One of the aspects of it that I really loved was, the story largely follows a character who's been an actor his whole life, and it largely presents him as an individual who, hasn't really lived himself because he's always just been living all these roles. And, it as an actor, he's played a whole bunch of adventurous characters that have done all sorts of amazing things, but at a lot of times it seems like he naively mistakes those experiences for real life experiences. But then I think one of the great arcs of that movie is a scene where he has to fight off an antagonist, and in a shed behind his house, in I think kind of symbolizes like deep memories that, he's forgotten about. He has some props from an old movie, and this prop happens to be a fully functional flamethrower that he kept from one of these action movies. And he's able to wield this weapon to fight off this person who's trying to kill him. And in a way that it's this great cathartic moment where, as the audience, we realize that this guy, he has actually retained some of the character and some of the powers from these characters that he played. Sure, he was only he only played a character of some Indiana Jones type fighting the Nazis with a flamethrower, but a part of that came through to his real life. I kind of see the High Priestess as an individual who could have this kind of opportunity to offer. It might be someone that many people think of as just another pretty face, just some actor or model or some representative of a brand or an institution that you don't think is actually a part of it. You don't think of them as actually having, playing any real role in that institution. But in this case, all those experiences within that institution nonetheless have given this individual at least some information, some wisdom to share that could be useful. So that's it. If you enjoyed this reading, bonk the like button, subscribe, stay up on date, and leave a comment below for a chance to win a free reading. I'll be drawing a name randomly on Sunday. Thanks for watching, and take care.